around your life. Not philosophically. I want you to actually look. Your room, your phone. Look at your bank account, your calendar, your relationships. Look at the people who have access to you. The promises you keep postponing. All of it is saying something. Not because every circumstance is your fault, and not because life is some magical mirror where thinking positively makes every problem disappear, but because over time, what you repeatedly tolerate, what you repeatedly rehearse, what you repeatedly avoid, what you repeatedly prioritize, begins to leave evidence. That is where the Hermetic principle of correspondence becomes useful. The Kabbalion describes it with the phrase, as above, so below. Most people turn that into something mystical. No, I think it's far more useful when you make it practical. Because if you want to know what is happening inside of a system, sometimes you inspect what keeps that system producing. Your life is producing something right now. The question is, what is it revealing? Here's what correspondence looks like in everyday, ordinary life. You see, a person who cannot say no in relationships often cannot say no at work. Someone who constantly abandons small promises to themselves usually struggles to trust themselves on larger ones. Someone whose attention is completely unmanaged may discover that their environment becomes unmanaged too. 20 tabs open. Notifications everywhere. 5 unfinished projects. 3 conversations they should have ended 6 months ago. 1 at a time. Unfinished. Undecided. Unguarded. That does not mean clutter caused the internal problem. It simply means patterns travel. The same operating system tends to show up in different places. That's correspondence. You may call it your work problem. You may call it your relationship problem, your money problem. You may call it your discipline problem. But sometimes there are not 5 separate problems. There are 5 appearances of the same pattern. Avoidance, poor boundaries, fear of conflict, need for approval, failure to decide. Different room, same architect. This is where people get themselves trapped. They keep explaining what they intend to be instead of examining what they repeatedly produce. I value peace, but every person in your life has unrestricted access to you. I care about my health, but your schedule gives everything priority except recovery. I'm serious about my work, but your best hours belong to scrolling. I have boundaries, but they disappear the second somebody becomes disappointed. Your intention matters. A structure tells the truth about what your intention has actually been able to govern. That distinction matters because self-awareness without observation becomes storytelling. You can tell yourself almost anything. Your patterns are harder to negotiate with. So instead of asking, who do I believe I am? Try asking, what does the structure of my life suggest I have been practicing? You see, that question is much less comfortable. It's also much more useful because correspondence does not require shame. It requires observation. Here's where this principle becomes practical. You do not have to fix your entire life. Simply find one small system that corresponds with a larger problem. If your attention feels chaotic, do not begin trying to become a perfectly disciplined person. No. Clean your phone. Turn off notifications. Delete applications that constantly summon you. Give your attention a door. If your relationships feel intrusive, do not begin with a speech about becoming powerful. No. Delay the reply. Stop explaining every no. Make access slightly more expensive. If your work feels scattered, finish one thing before opening another. Why? Because internal order and external order reinforce one another. You can work from either direction. Sometimes you change the belief and the behavior follows. Sometimes you change the behavior and finally give the mind evidence that a different identity is possible. That's the part most people miss. Your environment is not merely the result of who you are. It can also become a part of the machinery that trains who you become. There's another side to correspondence. Standards become visible. Not immediately, but eventually they do. What you refuse to address becomes visible. What you repeatedly excuse becomes visible. What you protect becomes visible. What you refuse to protect becomes visible too. See, people often want an internal transformation nobody around them can detect. They want stronger boundaries with the same availability. They want more discipline with the same habits. They want more peace with the same relationships, more control over their attention while allowing every algorithm on earth to interrupt them. Eventually, something has to correspond. Your internal philosophy has to become architecture. It has to enter your schedule. It has to enter your room, your spending, your conversations, your standards, your decisions. Otherwise, it remains an idea you admire. And an admired philosophy is not necessarily a practice philosophy. You do not become self-governing because you agree with self-governance. You become self-governing when the structure around you begins to show evidence of it. So here's the exercise for this principle. Tonight, do not journal about who you want to become. Inspect. Pick 3 areas: your environment, your attention, your relationships, and ask one question about each. What pattern does this reveal? Do not judge the answer. Do not dramatize it. Just find the correspondence. Because once a pattern becomes visible in more than one place, you are no longer dealing with a random event. You are looking at a system, and systems can be redesigned. The first principle was mentalism. The mind participates in the world you experience. Correspondence takes the next step. Your patterns do not stay hidden. No, eventually they take form. And once you see the form, you can begin changing the pattern. This is the Hermit. Not escape from the world, governance within the world.